Did you finish the JRE episode with that Timothy, I think is Alberino guy talking about the Nephilim? Did you finish that?
No, I didn't. I wanted to talk to you
Oh
about that.
man.
What do you
Huh?
think about all that?
I had never heard of it from that. I mean, I have some notes here. So yeah, that is my favorite. The whole story of Enoch and the Watchers and their descendants, you know, the Nephilim. It's my favorite story by far because that's like where all mythology comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my favorite thing because it's so bizarre. It's so wild. It's you know, the whole thing was taken out of our Bible. So I love that story. That episode, I had never heard it explained like that because we think of the Nephilim like mindless brute giants that were just, you know, running the place and causing havoc. Whereas according to this guy, according to Timothy, they were the reason the Nephilim the Watchers married the women and had the children because they wanted, from what he was saying, like a race that could rule Earth and set up advanced kingdoms. And I think what he was getting at was that mankind got all their tech from them. It wasn't necessarily aliens. So it's just wild.
Mankind got their tech from the giants,
the Watchers, because
got it.
The human women and the men and the Watchers, they made a deal. They're like, well, we want to get married, we want to start families, and you know, our descendants can run things. The women were like, okay, well, we need technology, we need advancements, and that's where like weapons of war came from, and a whole host of things. And you know, we don't know every single thing that was exchanged, what type of technology, but that you have to finish it. I'd watch it again. In fact, I might this week at the warehouse because I'd never heard it put like that. And then, yeah, one thing I didn't understand, it wasn't addressed fully in the episode, was that, you know, the flood was, and they never went into the fact that one of the other alternative reasons that they were making these hybrid babies was to pollute the bloodline so that Christ couldn't come. And then the reason that God sent the flood was to wipe this out so that there could be a clean line, and there was from Noah to Christ, but they didn't go over that. And then I always wondered how, because in the show they talk about this, they're still finding giants, which, you know, they didn't really say if they might have been the descendants or long descendants. And then I think it was that episode. Did you get to the part where they start talking about the giants in Afghanistan that people keep seeing?
Not too much. He started talking about the Kandahar region and the giants there. Real quick, for what you were talking about with the Watchers, that is in scripture where they basically said like the Watchers taught the women like secrets and like witchcraft. And so they believe like witchcraft is also from the Watchers, like, you know, magic and spells and things like that, which is kind of nuts.
They taught them it was either astrology or astronomy too.
Yeah, I think it was astrology and witchcraft, and then potions,
weapons of war. They called it like root making or root breaking.
Like magic and potions and stuff like that. And then, I mean, you know, that's when it says, you know, they're kind of getting too powerful, we should wipe them out. And that's when the flood came.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. My big question is, why do you think no one wants to talk about it? Because that's kind of like a reoccurring theme in that whole episode. And also in the very beginning too. And I thought that was strange because, you know, people talk about the UFO stuff. People talk about, you know, kind of, I guess, maybe angels and demons a little bit, you know, like there's a lot of things that people are more willing to talk about, especially within the government versus the giants. And I'm still confused on that. I don't know if he gets into that later, but what was your take on that?
He does. You want me to get into it or you want to wait?
Nah, let me wait. Okay. But so
he gets into it.
There is a conclusion on why. Well, there's his theory.
Yeah, there's his hypothesis.
Yeah, I heard that. His theory is about, doesn't he talk about Baal and sacrifices and stuff like that?
Yeah, he says the occult is wrapped up in this. And a lot of these cults and Baal worship, they're trying to get the bones of these things, because he was also saying that, you know, when you hear about the angels, the Watchers, the fathers, you could say, of the Nephilim, they were all locked up at the bottom of Mount Hermon, I think, because that's where they descended to Mount Hermon.
Yeah.
And they think that, there's a lot of stuff that went on in Mount Hermon. So anyways, they're locked inside the earth for like thousands of years. A lot of people say that when the Nephilim were wiped out, their souls can't go to heaven or hell because they weren't ever designed to exist anyway. So a lot of people say that the demons, when people get it possessed, those are the souls of the Nephilim, not fallen angels that we initially thought that were from heaven.
Interesting.
Which is crazy. So what it's saying is everything goes back to these guys, not aliens, ancient civilization coming from this or that. He was getting at it. It seems to come back from them and the power and technology that came from the Watchers' knowledge, and then the archaic rule and governance that came from their descendants, the Nephilim, that made these crazy civilizations. Because I think King Nebuchadnezzar, or one of those ancient kings, they were all massive as hell, so tall, you know, and they just don't know. And it's weird. It was like, were these things ever wiped out fully? You know,
What do you
that's
think?
what I kept thinking.
What do you think aliens are?
I don't know. We can get into that. Let's see let's finish up, because that's a whole other thing. But do you think that's
Well,
you
brought up aliens, so you were saying
we're gonna
that.
dive into it.
Well, you were saying that you were saying that he said that aliens are tied to the Nephilim.
I don't know if he said that. It's just people tend to always focus on aliens.
Got it. And he was saying this is more of a bigger deal.
You know, when they talk about the technology from the pyramids, people are like aliens, where it seemed like what this guy was pointing out is it came from the giants.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. That's a crazy one. Honestly, I need to finish the podcast because I don't feel like I have nearly enough information on all of that.
Yeah.
There were specific details in Exodus about giants being in the promised land and them not wanting to go. So like the Bible mentions giants a lot.
Yeah. And I think that the word for giant in Hebrew, or just large, is Nephilim. So I wonder if they're descendants or just extremely tall people. Because I feel like God would have wiped them all out, you know?
The Nephilim? Yeah. Do you think then that what do you think about the cases of them being in Afghanistan and like Kandahar and like the Spec Ops? That Spec Ops story that he mentioned is not the first one I've heard. And you know what's funny is there was a military buddy who knew someone personally that was on base when that mission happened, and he told me.
Did he have any?
He told me that it was the exact same story.
Wow!
And then I heard it on Joe Rogan with that guy that does the one of the goats of arm wrestling. He told the same story too.
Yeah, he was Canadian Special Forces.
Yeah, my buddy Jake told me the exact same story, and he was infantry, so that he has associations and ties to that kind of, to those guys, and so his story was the exact same thing. And I was like, I don't know if this is just a story everyone's telling, like it's just like, hey, leak this information in, but yeah, apparently they slaughtered the first group, a second group went. And apparently these are also Spec Ops, goes there, kills the guy, and then they come with a chopper and put the body onto a pallet.
The pallet, right?
Yeah, and then bring him out of the chopper. I'm guessing that is then how that body gets to that airbase, and then the C-130, they put him on a C-130, which is just nuts. I think it's also interesting because, he did have talks about it conflicting with like evolution and stuff like that. I thought that's also an interesting point. You know what I mean? Because
how would it conflict with evolution?
Well, I think, if you're of the theory, especially with a lot of the museums, apparently they're hiding the bodies. I was just like, if there was some crazy archaeological discovery, you think they would be like, bro, look at this,
Right.
look at this 8-foot, 12-foot guy that we have, and put them on display. I thought that was also interesting.
It is weird how you say, like, they're releasing so much stuff on aliens, UFOs. They've, in the museums, we have all of these dinosaur remains of skeletons. But if that's true, that they're this close-lipped about the giants and it all, because that guy in there was talking to people he's known and personally, I guess, talked to, that were like, when he starts asking, they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Very weird.
What are you asking? They don't answer They don't answer his questions, and they're like, be careful. And so it's like, okay, couldn't it be more obvious that something real weird's going on and deep here, Yeah. The story of the kids like crawling into the cave and then having to sleep and like stay above where the giant's body is buried, where the bones are, and like something convenes with the children. You know what I mean? That's weird.
Wait, what happened? I don't remember that part. It was long as heck, so I might have dazed out.
He was talking about the island that has the most megalithic structures, is known by the people that live on that island. I guess it's close to Italy. It's known to also have under each megalithic structure buried bones of these giants. And during more ancient times, the community, like a rite of passage for the kids, I guess adolescents becoming a man or becoming a teenager or whatever, there's a small door in these structures and the kid would crawl in and they would seal it and they would leave the kid in for so many days. And apparently they think that the bones of these giants are like basically gods or heroes of old or the greats. And that child being there would absorb that energy of being one of the greats, of one of the giants, that kind of heroic kind of energy. But it also is kind of weird because it's like children and then it kind of gets into like,
It always goes back to the kids, dude.
Yeah, it's weird.
So weird.
It's so weird. Yeah, like sacrifices and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one, dude. But I mean, that makes sense why people want to talk about everything but the giants.
Yeah, because maybe that's like where it all goes back to. We started listening to that stuff for a while and, we always thought it was a crazy topic, but this guy's tying it into like, that's where, from what I can tell and what I remember, because apparently I did miss some stuff because it's like, I don't know, 3 hours. And that's an episode you have to be locked in on.
Yeah.
Like really well.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy that a lot of the things that we think that it might have done these things in ancient civilizations or what have you, like it might just go back to the Watchers and the Nephilim.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, It makes sense. Also, kind of a crazy concept that because I guess everything that is any conscious being has some type of spirit, like angels are spirits, demons are spirits. Then you have this weird hybrid of human angel or human fallen angel. And then you have this really effed up spirit of the giant.
Imagine being one of them. I didn't ask to be here.
Yeah.
My spirit is tied to this place because I can't go to heaven or hell. I'm not an angel and I'm not a human.
Yeah.
Talk about an existence. I can't reproduce.
Just to end it on this, did you hear about, I don't know if he goes into this because the Book of Enoch is very interesting, but I don't know how much research you've done or dived into Enoch, but apparently I thought this was cool. Well, not cool, but interesting that the leader of the Watchers failed their job and that leader was then casted into the abyss. So not like a heaven or hell, but almost like a purgatory area for like 10,000 years or something like that. Yeah. Basically, he took the fall for his men. And I thought that was interesting. And then also, like, you start thinking about, like, Zeus and all of the Greek gods. And it's like, okay, are those angels and demons? Are those Watchers? Or are those Nephilim? You know what I mean? It's all very interesting stuff. Like, like Zeus and all of those guys.
I think it all probably goes back to them, if what he's saying is accurate.
Yeah.
And man, he had some deep knowledge on it. That's for sure. We could do a whole week of podcasts on that.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. 100%. It's a crazy topic.